The road to repeating as World Series champs for the Dodgers goes straight through Philadelphia. Today, we're breaking down why LA fans should feel optimistic and what worries should be keeping you up at night ahead of the NLDS kicking off this weekend.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It's time for Locked On Dodgers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're officially in NLDS mode. Dodgers, Phillies, it starts on Saturday, and today we got our preview episode with why we should feel good, why we should be worried, and a very interesting suggestion from our listener line. The hype couldn't get any bigger, Travis.
Nope, it's finally here. Like we said, we've been waiting for 6 months to get to the best part of the season, and the Dodgers did their role there in the wild card round, and we are on to the DS. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So download the app today.
The Dodgers got the job done, unlike the Padres. He's Travis Rodgers. I'm Harper Ruiz, two guys who talk sports for a living and bleed Dodger blue for life. You can get more Travis on 710 ESPN LA or the ESPN LA app from 3 to 6 p.m. with the Travis and DeMarco Show. As for me, I'm the Spanish play-by-play broadcaster for the USC Football Trojans and the Las Vegas Raiders. But nothing beats jumping on the mic every weekday morning and diving deep into what I love most, talking Dodger baseball with you. And we want you to be a part of our show. Hit us up on the Locked On Dodgers listener line, 279-3LOCKED or 279-356-2533. You can either leave us a voicemail or a text, and you might be featured in our show. Let's jump right into it, starting with the reasons for optimism heading into this series. Look, when you talk about this matchup, everybody immediately goes to the star power, right? Between these two teams, you've got MVPs, you got batting champs, you got home run kings. And for the Dodgers, you're talking Ohtani, Betts, Freeman when you're talking about batters. For the Phillies, Schwarber, Harper, Turner, and then add to the fact that these two teams have won more regular season games than anybody else in baseball over the past 2 years, both 191 wins. Yeah, this isn't just a playoff matchup. This feels like a clash of titans. It sucks that it's a best-of-5 series, Travis.
Yeah, I agree, Harry. It makes it far more challenging for both teams. You know, obviously the Phillies have a slight advantage. They're going to get, 3 of these games at home if it goes the distance. The Dodgers will only get a couple of them. But, not that anything couldn't happen in the DS or the CS or the World Series, but this is the best team the Dodgers are going to play. This is the best team the Phillies are going to play. This is, the heavyweight matchup that we've been looking for. And you're right that it's in a 5-game series, I think puts added pressure on game one, because the idea of either of these teams needing to win 3 out of 4 from the other, that's asking a whole lot from both of these teams. So I think you're going to see an incredible game one. I am very optimistic for the reasons you said. I think that the star power is real. The Dodgers stars are hot. And I think that, if you survive the wild card round, I think one of the benefits of being in it is that you have played, you have felt that pressure. When the Dodgers are on the field tomorrow, this will be their 3rd playoff game. The feelings that come along with it, that tension, that excitement, that just that buzz that's kind of in your head in those big moments. The Dodgers will be a little bit more familiar with it, at least for a while, until the Phillies catch up after having sat around and waited for the better part of a week. So I think that if there ever could be a slight advantage going into the other team's ballpark, I think this may be it. And then, of course, Ohtani's the great the great equalizer, having him out there on the mound.
And look, they played each other in Philadelphia super early in the season in April. But then they just played each other 2 weeks ago in Los Angeles. And here's where my first source of optimism comes in. Shohei Ohtani, Blake Snell, Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Those 3 are set to start the first 3 games of this series for the LA. And the Phillies, they haven't touched them at all this year. Combined between these 3 guys, 18 innings, 0 runs allowed, 5 hits, 22 strikeouts, 6 walks. That's dominance. And it's not just that they pitched well. It's that they shut down one of the most potent lineups in baseball. Harper didn't hit them. Turner didn't hit them. Schwarber didn't hit them. If those guys stay cold against these starters, the Dodgers will be in great shape. Even though the pressure in the postseason, I know, is a different monster. And Shohei Ohtani, he has never thrown a ball in a postseason game. This is going to be his first chance to be like, okay, this is going to be his shining moment in baseball. He already did it last year as a DH. Now, pitcher, batter, Shohei, all the spotlight. You're always in the spotlight. Now the spotlight is shining even brighter.
Yeah, I want to double down on Shohei for a second. Go back to him showing up in the major leagues. 8 years ago, and certainly going back to his debut with the Dodgers a year ago and what transpired and what has happened this year. Even going back to his initial spring training appearances with the Dodgers a couple of years ago. This guy shows up when there is something that a moment to lead off a series, to lead off a game, a big hit and a big. Shohei Ohtani has that ability. The World Baseball Classic a few years ago when he faced his former teammate Mike Trout, he just has that ability to elevate his game for bigger moments. This will be a big moment. Like you said, his first Dodger start on the mound in the postseason. I expect him to be not good. I expect him to be excellent. Now, the rub gets where you were talking about, they covered 18 innings. That's really good. They're going to need to play 27 innings in those games. And so you got about 9 more innings that you need to cover. I know we're going to talk about that coming up in just a little bit, but that starting pitching is lethal. The Phillies have really good pitching too, but I think the Dodgers is slightly better. It's going to come down to all those little things, right? Catching fly balls in right field, not misplaying balls in left field, making sure that you keep guys in double play order, all of that little stuff that sometimes you kind of go, whatever, what's the big deal? It's a huge deal in the postseason.
Yeah, and I was going over some of the numbers, and the Philly starters didn't do great against the Dodgers lineup during these games. You can look at Sanchez, 5 2/3, 6 hits, 4 earned runs. Suarez, 6 innings pitched, 7 hits, 3 earned runs in this last time they faced each other. Sanchez, 7 innings, 7 hits, 4 earned runs. Luzardo, 7 innings, 6 hits, 4 earned runs, which for most pitchers, you look at those numbers against the Dodgers and they're going to say, it's like, hey, man, at least they didn't score 7 on me and right. I got through 6. But if this happens in the postseason, I feel that the Dodgers are going to be in a good spot. Here are 2 more reasons, Travis, that I'm confident right now. Freddie Freeman wasn't even in the lineup the last time these teams played in Philadelphia. He was on the IL with an ankle injury. The Dodgers lost 2 out of 3 in April on the road against them, and they were close games. They lost by a run in each of those. You add a future Hall of Famer to that lineup, a guy who's been one of the most consistent hitters of his generation, and yeah, that matters. And that's an addition. I'll add a subtraction because Michael Conforto is a lefty. And the Phillies, they're throwing 3 lefties in their first 3 games. So if Conforto wasn't on the wild card round roster, I highly doubt that he's going to be in the divisional roster. And he went 1 for 13 against Philly in 2025. 1 hit. It was a home run. 4 games. That's not getting it done. And honestly, anybody else on this roster would give you more value both at the plate and in the field. So I'll add that. Put Freddie Freeman in there, take Michael Conforto. That's 2 elements that you had the opposite in the regular season. I'll give a thumbs up for the Dodgers in that.
Yeah, I think so too. Anytime you're adding Freddie back to it, and especially a hot Freddie, and it feels like he's swinging the bat really well right now. I'll go back to some of those games they played against the Phillies just a couple of weeks ago. I got a chance to go out and to see 2 of those 3 games at Dodger Stadium, and that was when the Dodgers were doing they were doing openers, they were doing weird stuff, they were getting a little too cute. I thought. I don't think that they're going to do that. With the Dodgers, you never quite know because sometimes they do get a little adventurous, shall we say, but I think they're going to do what you expect most of these teams to do in the playoffs. You play more regular traditional baseball in the postseason than you do during the regular season. You're going to ride your starter a little bit longer. You're going to let him pitch in, over 100 pitches if they're kind of grooving like that. You're going to see your regular lineup every single night. You're not going to get guys off their feet. So I'm very optimistic. Freddie makes a huge deal And I don't think you're going to see that, hey, maybe we can sneak an opener through to try to get, match up with Schwarber or Harper or whatever it is. I think you're just going to get the straight gas coming out of the bullpen to start. And I'll take my chances with those guys every single time.
And here goes my last and final bullet point when it comes to, okay, we should be feeling all right heading into the NLDS. Zack Wheeler is out for the season. That's a huge break for the Dodgers. He was the guy you absolutely did not want to see in October. Without him, Philly is leaning heavy on Aaron Nola, Walker Buehler being their fourth man, and then trying to patch the rotation together with the three lefties. Not patch the rotation together. These are the guys that are patching the rotation. Yeah. Travis, if I recall correctly, you actually saw Zack Wheeler in action in Philadelphia when you were out there at the stadium, right?
Yeah, that was the day he struck out 12 guys and gave up one hit and faced 28 batters. It was an absolute masterpiece. It's one of the best pitching performances I've ever seen with my own two eyes. And Harry, he made it look easy. I mean, he was just going through guys like they weren't even there. I mean, now that I think about it, I think it was a 14 strikeout game. It was as good as I've ever seen. They don't have him. That's one of those games where a guy like that, even if you're throwing an Ohtani or a Snell or a Yamamoto, one run might be the difference between winning that game or not. Like you said, the rest of the guys the Phillies are going to throw are really, really good. They're not slouches. That being said, they're not Zack Wheeler. So, maybe another one of those small advantages that goes back to the Dodgers. But, we're going to talk about it coming up here in just a little bit. But that bullpen's still going to have to get some outs. I expect Kershaw to be back on the roster, so that helps a little bit. I think he can get you through some of those 6, 7, 8 inning areas where to try to cover some of those outs. But it's going to be tight. This is not going to be the Red Series all over again where they go in there and they just club the other team into submission. This is going to be a very different type of baseball.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that Christopher Sanchez isn't good. Heck, if it weren't for Paul Skeens, Christopher Sanchez would win the Cy Young this year. Yeah. But I'd rather go against Christopher Sanchez in game one instead of Zack Wheeler game one and then Christopher Sanchez game two. So 100%. That's what I mean. It's positive for the Dodgers that you don't have Wheeler in that rotation right now. So the optimism is there. The Dodgers, they have the frontline pitching. They've got Freddie back. They've got matchup advantages, and the Phillies are missing their ace. On paper, that's a strong hand to play with. But of course, there's another side to this, because while the Dodgers have reasons to feel good, next on Locked On Dodgers, there are also some big reasons for worry.
This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Every single day we're making decisions, but on Prize Picks, being right can actually get you paid. So don't miss the excitement of this football season with Prize Picks, where it is good to be right. Playing Prize Picks is absolutely awesome. It's so much fun. It's a simple way to add excitement to football. Just last night, right, I did my other gig with the Rams, and it was an overtime thriller, and I needed it, right? I needed it to make my Prize Picks hit. You just pick more or less on Prize Pick player projections, like Josh Allen's passing yards, Saquon Barkley's rushing yards, or last night, Matthew Stafford's passing yards. Go more than with Matthew Stafford. I love how quick it is. You can make your lineups in under a minute, and Prize Picks just added stacks too. So if you want to ride with a player, you can select their passing yards, rushing yards, touchdowns, all in one lineup. So download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB for $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right.
Don't forget to follow Locked On Dodgers not only on YouTube, but on X, Instagram, and TikTok as well. You can find Travis on social media at Travis Rodgers on X and Instagram. Meanwhile, I'm at Harry Ruiz on X, at Harry_Ruiz on Instagram, and at Harry Ruiz_ on TikTok. All right, so here's the reality check. Optimism is one thing, but we've also got to talk about the things that could bite the Dodgers in this series. And number one, history. The Phillies have owned the Dodgers as of late. Since the start of 2024, the Phillies are 9-3 against LA. They went 5-1 last year, 4-2 this year. That's not a small sample size anymore. They've consistently had the Dodgers number, and in a best-of-5 series, that worries me, Travis.
It does. It's a really short series, and I don't want to say that whoever wins game one wins the series, because obviously it can go the other way, but whoever wins game one has a massive advantage in this series, because you just need to, you hold serve if you're Philadelphia, or if you're the Dodgers. Now you just need to come back to Dodger Stadium and win a couple. Now, as far as the history goes, I get it. The Phillies have had the advantage over the Dodgers in the regular season the last couple of years. But like we talked about a second ago, Harry, how many of those Dodger games were played with the full complement of Dodger players? Not very many of them, right? A couple of weeks ago, it was closer. It wasn't exactly right, but it was a lot closer. But you go back to Philadelphia at the beginning of the season, that was a different Dodger team than the one that they're putting out there right now. I think most importantly, even if some of the personnel is the same, the level of intensity is different. And one of the things I love about this Dodger team is what we've seen last year and going into this year. They play really good baseball in October. They play loose. That monkey that was on their back for so long seems to have been cast aside, that they're going to go in there. Their stars will be like stars. And that's incredibly encouraging, because this is all about one at bat. It's all about one play. And when it comes down to it, if we got one play and it's Shohei Ohtani or Mookie Betts or Freddie Freeman, that's one thing. But what if it's one at bat with Max Muncy? He's been out there a million times. One at bat with Will Smith. He's been out there a million times. Miguel Rojas, all just right on down the line. Teoscar Hernandez. The level of experience on this team is real. And the deeper it goes, I think the more advantage it becomes to the Dodgers, because the Phillies do have that burden of not having punched their ticket with this particular group. The Dodgers did it a year ago. They're a little bit freer and easier. I know that, as far as the payroll and all that stuff, they're the favorites, but this is a team that has a little bit of house money. They know that they can go in there and do this, and the Phillies are still waiting to see if they can.
And look, the Phillies, they've been to the postseason the last 3 years, but they went from being in the World Series and losing it to the Astros in 2022 to then losing in the National League Championship Series in 2023 against the D-backs, to then losing in the divisional series last year against the hot New York Mets team. So they're like taking steps back. They're also a top 5 salary team when it comes to a payroll team in baseball right now. So they have that pressure right now, especially just seeing how I mentioned. They went from World Series 3 years ago to 2 years ago, National Championship Series to last year Divisional Series. Now they get a bye again, and they want to pounce on the opportunity. Now, let's go to a situation that I feel is going to be very, very important for the Dodgers, and I have it as a negative right now because we're uncertain. At the moment that we're filming this, Friday, October 3rd in the morning, we don't know about Will Smith's status. We don't know if he's going to be available or not. Travis, I'm pretty sure you don't even remember who the starting catcher for the Dodgers was on September 15th. And it's not Rortvedt, it's not Dalton Rushing. Chucky Robinson.
Oh, Chucky Robinson. Yeah. You had a sacrifice bunt in that game. That's right. Yeah.
He was the starting catcher for the Dodgers in game 1 of a 3-game series. That's not going to be the case anymore. And that was pretty much the time when Van Rortvedt was becoming Van Rortvedt that he is right now, which incredibly, I feel that he's the number 1 option for the Dodgers right now, both offensively and defensively in the backstop, if Will Smith isn't available. But that's the case right now that we're talking about, a team that has more pieces in the puzzle available than the first 2 times they played the Phillies. But if Will Smith isn't available, I'm very worried, because you're going lefty to kick things off with Philadelphia.
Yeah, it's a different ask for sure, and the pressure goes up. But I'll look, anybody that watches baseball regularly, like you do, like I do, like I'm assuming the vast majority of the Locked On Dodgers listeners do, you know that the playoffs get weird, and there's always a guy that shows up that you're like, what do you mean we can't get this guy out? The guy that gets the big hit, the guy that makes a big play. And Rortvedt did that in that opening series, right? He got on base a bunch of times. How often did we see Shohei Ohtani come up with a chance to do some damage with guys on base? That's something that was not happening a lot during the regular season. So, maybe Rortvedt is that guy. I know I'm a bit of a broken record here, Harry, but I got to say it again. This series is going to come down to who makes fewer stupid mistakes. And I'm not talking about like a bad hop error that hits off somebody's glove or a throw that might sail on somebody. That's kind of baseball errors that happen. I'm talking about throwing to the wrong base, I'm talking about making a mental error. I'm talking about running into an out on the base pass. I'm talking about having a bad at bat where a situation where a ground ball to the right side can move a runner into scoring position. You know, the old adage of get them on, get them over, get them in. That stuff plays big time in postseason baseball. And if you got guys trying to hit home runs with guys on first base, good luck with that. And I really do think that's the difference. One run here or there, one play here or there, one decision here or there, by the managers included, I think decides this series because they're very, very evenly matched.
And look, I know that the Dodgers actually played pretty well against left-handed pitching. You had them number 3 in OPS, number 7 in batting average this year in baseball, but it's not ideal to have lefty, where it's like, okay, you put a lot of pressure on guys like Mookie Betts, like Teoscar Hernandez, potentially Will Smith if he plays. You know that those right-handed batters, they're always very important. But right now, if you have 3 lefties off the bat as the starting rotation, and more than likely game 4, they would go with somebody on short rest to put him out there. That's one part where I'm like, okay, it's not ideal, and I'll put it right there as a situation of worry.
What with all those left-handers too, one name that I'll throw in there that's got an opportunity to do some damage, and you know we talk about him occasionally, but maybe not as much as we probably should, is Andy Pages. Andy Pages is going to get some opportunities to see some left-handers that he may not otherwise get a chance to do, and he's been really, really good. I mean, if he gets hot, that's a whole nother level that the Dodgers can go to.
Only one player in the Dodgers lineup has more home runs than Andy Pages, and we all know who it is.
Yep.
Now, you go from pitching to batting. This lineup, man, it's dangerous. They were 2nd in batting average in all of baseball this year. That means they're consistently putting guys on base, and they can slug with the best of them. Trey Turner just won the batting title. Kyle Schwarber, he's the home run king this season in the National League. Bryce Harper, he's Bryce Harper, 2-time MVP who lives for October moments. That's a scary top 3, as you're going to find outside of LA. So yeah, if there's one team in the National League that can go toe-to-toe with the Dodgers in terms of star power, it's the Phillies right now.
Yeah, and look, Schwarber's going to get his, Harper's going to get his. That's just those guys are all-stars, right? Like you mentioned, you know, Bryce Harper's going to the Hall of Fame. Bryce Harper's a multiple-time MVP. Kyle Schwarber might be going to the Hall of Fame. I mean, they're really good players. Limit the damage. When they do run into one, make sure nobody's on base. When they do get, have that big moment, buckle down a little bit more because they're going to get theirs. Just like Ohtani's going to get his, just like Betts is going to get his. You hope that it happens with nobody on base. You hope that they're solo shots. You can deal with it. One run is not going to, change the game necessarily, but 3 can. And if you're putting guys on with hits or walks or errors, and all of a sudden here comes Harper, here comes Schwarber, here comes one of those other guys, that's when it gets really dicey. So you want to face those guys with nobody on whenever possible.
Don't get cute with the bottom of the lineup for Philadelphia. If the Dodgers don't execute, this could turn south real quick. And speaking of execution, one of the biggest decisions coming for Dave Roberts and the front office is roster construction. How many pitchers should they carry into the series? One Locked On Dodgers listener has a suggestion, and it's worth talking about coming up on Locked On Dodgers.
FanDuel, right? I love FanDuel. And FanDuel in the NFL season, you can't beat it. And they have an offer right now at FanDuel that you do not want to miss because right now, new customers, you can bet just $5 and you're going to get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. You just pick a bet, you put down $5, and if that bet hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. And you can use those $300 in bonus bets any way you would like, right? You like player props, FanDuel's got you covered. You want to build a parlay, FanDuel has you covered. You can even do live betting, live lines during the games, all of it available on FanDuel. That's what makes watching football even more exciting when you've got that little something extra riding on the outcome. So whether you're a casual fan or love going deep into the weeds and the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started.
Thanks for making us your first listen wherever you may be tuning in, either on your favorite podcast app or our YouTube channel. Subscribe to it. Smash that notification bell so you never miss a beat. Full episodes, hot takes, breaking Dodgers news, and The Dodgers Postcast Show with Pete Fox Live returns this Saturday after the final out of Game 1 of the NLDS. If it drops, you're on it. That's how you become an everydayer here on Locked On Dodgers. So here's the question. The Dodgers can have up to 13 pitchers plus Shohei Ohtani in their postseason active roster. Tony from Los Feliz is back via the Locked On Dodgers listener line, and he says, nope, 11 is enough. And honestly, it's worth looking into.
I've been sitting here doing a lot of research about what needs to be done for the NLDS against the Phillies. And I've come up with the reality that you're going to need 15 position players and 11 pitchers. You need to emphasize late inning defensive replacements. You have to carry Justin Dean. You have to carry Alex Call and his son Kim, because you simply cannot trust that you have enough righties in that bullpen to close it down. At this point, your righties, Sasaki, Trinan, then you're going to have to go with a combination of Tanner Scott as a lefty. You have Sheehan, who obviously may not be ready, Glass now, and that's it. You're going to carry Robleski, and you're going to continue on emphasizing probably Bonda, maybe even Kershaw. You're going to have an army of lefties. The problem is you cannot defend walks. There is no late inning defense against walks. I don't see how this genius front office can do it. If they're able to pull this off and they can somehow bridge the gap between these 7 to 8 inning starters to the final bell, they will have earned it. That's for sure. Go Blue. Bye-bye.
There's our guy, Tony from Los Feliz. Thank you for calling in. The point is, in a short series, do you really need that 12th and 13th arm? Travis, what's your opinion as a former pitcher?
I agree with half of what Tony was saying, and I disagree with the other half. I agree that you're going to want to make sure that walks are minimized to whatever ability you have to do that. You know, the everydayers for me, walks are unacceptable in the postseason, and they are incredibly unacceptable in the late innings. It's the only way the Reds were going to get back in those games is if you walk a bunch of guys, and that's exactly what the Dodgers did. They escaped anyway. So I'm with him on that. I'm not with him on the idea of having Call and Justin Dean on the team. They're exactly the same guy. I don't think you need two of those guys. Those are guys that really aren't going to take any meaningful at-bats. I think you take Call. Call's got a little bit more experience offensively than him. I think that I trust him a little bit more on the bases. Dean might be a better defender, but I don't need a guy that can only play defense. I need somebody that brings a little bit more to the table there. So I think that Dean is probably the odd man out in that situation. Kim, I think, is on the roster for sure, just because he gives you a ton of versatility. If you get into one of those weird extra inning situations where you're running people all over, the Dodgers have a lot of guys that can fill in some holes there. And look, I get it. It's a short series. It's only 5 games, but you're going to need some bullpen options. I think you're going to see some quicker hooks if you can. I think you're going to see starting pitchers go a little deeper if they can, but Kershaw is coming back. I think Bonda probably is there. I think what's interesting is, do they give Henriquez another shot at this or not? I don't think I would. I think I would go in a different direction. I think he kind of showed his cards here a little bit. We will see. Sheehan obviously did not look good, but he's going to make it. You're going to get tighter and tighter rotations going in there, but I don't think you need two guys that are strictly defensive players, especially when you have so many guys like Kike and some others, Edmund, who can play all over the field. You're always going to be able to find a place to cover some defense, but I'm going to need some bats in the lineup, and Dean and Call, I don't need both of those guys.
Yeah, I was going through my notes for today's show, and I was like, man, the only reason why Henriquez would be on this roster is a kind of a shortage when it comes to right-handed relievers, because you're going to have Sasaki, Trinan, Sheehan available out of the bullpen. But then after that, you're talking Vesia, Robleski, Banda, Scott, Dreyer, Kershaw. What do they have in common? They're all lefties. So if you need another right-handed pitcher out of that bullpen, it would potentially be Henriquez, but I honestly feel that with Schwarber and Harper at the top of the lineup, both being lefties, I have no problem with the surplus of left-handed pitchers right now.
Look, it's not ideal to be that left-hand dominant on the mound out of the bullpen. I understand that, but let me ask every Dodger fan out there, would you rather have a left-hander who's going to throw the ball over the plate facing a right-hander, or would you rather have Henriquez throwing 48-foot fastballs and firing it over the umpire's head? There is no defense for that. And I don't mean to pile on Henriquez because, I'm sure he's a fine guy and all that, but it was so bad. It was so far off that I just don't trust him not to do it again. He had, I use this expression all the time here on Locked On Dodgers. I use it on Locked On Rams. I don't need guys with big eyes in big moments. I need guys that are very chill, very, very familiar with what that feels like. I'm not saying it's easy. It is definitely not easy. And Sheehan had pretty good size eyes too, but I'll at least give him another chance. Henriquez he just doesn't throw enough strikes in my opinion. So I'd rather go a little more left-handed and be vulnerable to something like that, because their vulnerability in walks is you're just sitting there watching it happen. There's nothing to do. And with the idea they got to face three guys unless they get out of an inning, he could walk the bases loaded and they don't have to do anything in a certain situation. So I'm going to go with the lefties.
Which pretty much happened in game one between Vesia and Enriquez, 1 out. And when you had the next pitcher come in, the bases were juiced. So got to be careful with that. And of course, the risk in this situation from Tony that he expressed is if you go short on arms and one of your starters gets knocked out early, suddenly you're burning through relievers faster than you'd like. There's a good situation right now that you play Saturday and then have Sunday off, then play Wednesday and then don't play again. Monday and then don't play again until Wednesday. It's kind of funky, but we'll accept it right now. It'll help us have Blake Snell out there twice in this series. But if you go with that risk, the reward would be extra offense, extra defense, more pinch hit options in a chess match with a team like Philly. That could be huge. So that's why when I heard that call last night, when Tony rang in, I was like, you know what? We're going to go with him and put it out there and see what our Dodger family says. Let us know in the comments if you agree or not.
Yeah, you bring up a good point with the schedule the way it is. It'd be, Saturday, Monday, and then Wednesday, Thursday, and then we'll see whether or not there's a game 5 or shoot for that matter, whether even there's a game 4. But the way that it sets up, there are enough off days in there to where you can recycle some of these starters to get them back in there. I think that's why you still may see a situation where a Glasnow or somebody like that comes in a relief appearance where you might not expect them otherwise. If the Dodgers have a lead late and it's close and you're not trusting any of those typical relief guys, maybe that is a situation for Glasnow, knowing that you have a couple of built-in off days along the way, so you can recycle Yamamoto or Ohtani or Snell and get those guys in there a second time or use them out of the bullpen. I think that, the Henriquez's and the Dryers and those guys that were so inconsistent in that first round, unless you get another blowout sort of score, I don't think you're going to see a ton of those guys in those moments.
And in case you still don't know, game 1 of the National League Divisional Series is Saturday, October 4th, 3:38 p.m. Pacific time. Game 2, Monday, October 6th, 3:08 p.m. Pacific time. Games 3, 4, and 5 are still TBD when it comes to timing, but we know they'll be October 8th and, if necessary, October 9th and 11th. So that's our preview so far. I know that there's a lot of projections. We're keeping our fingers crossed. I honestly feel that if the Dodgers steal one from Philadelphia in games 1 or 2, we're going to be in a good spot to be able to clinch at home with the pitchers that we have on the mound. I know that you're not in the prediction business, Travis, but is there something that you have in mind when it comes to that to share with our followers?
I think whoever wins game 1 wins the series. I mean, it obviously can go different, but I think whoever wins game 1 wins the series, because either of these teams to beat the other one 3 out of 4, that's asking a whole heck of a lot. I think you're going to see win-loss. I think that whoever wins game 1 wins the series.
But they go 5 then, in your opinion?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. If I feel if the Dodgers win either game 1 or 2, they're winning the series at home.
I hope so.
I feel right now.
You don't want to go back into Philadelphia for a game 5 because, like we talked about, that place is an unreal environment. I mean that as a compliment to the Phillies fans. They've done a really good job of making that a very, very difficult place to play. Home field advantage in baseball is usually about getting to hit last, not about the environment that you're playing in. And in Philadelphia, it's both.
Exactly. Well, that'll do it for today's episode of Locked On Dodgers. If you're still craving more baseball talk, have the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night be your second listen. Every game, every night, all season long, including the guys talking about the Cubs beating the Padres and San Diego not making it out of the wild card round. Get local analysis on a national scale. Yeah, it was a great game. Find it on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. We have more coming up later today on Friday. The crossover edition between Locked On Phillies and Locked On Dodgers will be here on our feed. Travis, man, I can't wait for Saturday at 3:38 p.m. By the way, pretty weird.
It's only in playoff baseball do you actively look forward to something that you know is going to make you sick to your stomach. And that's exactly what it's going to be this weekend. I can't wait for it.
We appreciate you riding with us. Until next time, keep it real, keep it Dodger Blue.